Keep in mind, the figures presented here are approximations meant to give you a sense of the cost of living. Always verify with up-to-date sources before making any decisions. Most people think of citizenship as something you're born into. A fixed fact. Something printed on a document you had no say in. But the reality, in 2026, is that a growing number of countries will exchange a legal right to live, stay, and eventually hold a passport, in return for a property purchase. Not a donation to a government fund, not a startup investment, not a lottery. A real piece of land or built property that you own outright, with residency or citizenship rights attached. The list runs from Europe to the Caribbean, from Southeast Asia to the South Pacific. Some of these paths cost less than a mid-range American home. Others are explicitly designed for high-net-worth individuals who want an EU passport and nothing less. A few are underrated to the point of being genuinely overlooked, even by experienced expats. And as you'll see, our top pick offers something the others simply cannot match for the combination of accessibility, language, and passport strength. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Number 12, Tbilisi, Georgia. Georgia sits at the crossroads of Eastern Europe and the South Caucasus, bordered by the Black Sea to the west and the Greater Caucasus Mountains to the north. Tbilisi, the capital, is a city of ornate balconied architecture, sulfur bath houses, and one of the most vibrant food cultures in the entire former Soviet sphere. The climate is temperate, with warm summers and mild winters in the capital, though the mountain regions are considerably harsher. For those looking to stretch a modest income, Georgia is one of the few places on Earth where the math still works comfortably. All-in monthly costs sit at roughly $900 to $1,000 for a single person living well, and a one-bedroom in the city center runs somewhere around $500 to $600 per month. Entry-level property purchase starts at around $60,000 and reaches $130,000 for something more polished. The residency angle here is unusual. Citizens of more than 95 countries can stay in Georgia entirely visa-free for a full year. That is not a tourist allowance, that is a genuine 365-day legal stay, and it is renewable through a border run or through longer-term mechanisms including property purchase or business registration. Georgia also runs one of the most attractive flat tax structures for self-employed individuals anywhere in the world, a 1% income tax rate for sole proprietors earning under approximately $155,000 per year through the Individual Entrepreneur Scheme. On the downside, Georgia is not in the EU, and there is currently no realistic path toward EU membership on any near-term timeline. Regional tensions along the Russian border remain a background concern that should not be dismissed lightly. Outside expat circles in Tbilisi, the Georgian script and a residual Russian language dominance can make daily life genuinely challenging for English speakers. Number 11, Wyoming, USA. Wyoming is the least populous state in the contiguous United States, with a total population of just under 600,000 spread across a landmass larger than the United Kingdom. The scenery is extraordinary: the Teton Range, Yellowstone, the Red Desert, vast open basins that stretch further than the eye can reasonably follow. It is one of the few places in America where solitude is not a selling point but simply a fact of geography. For property buyers looking at the American West with a privacy-first mindset, Wyoming's legal and tax architecture is notable. There is no state income tax, no estate tax, and mineral revenue from oil and gas extraction funds the bulk of state services. Property in the entry-level range sits between $250,000 and $360,000, and agricultural land trades at roughly $1,400 to $2,000 per acre, which is noticeably cheaper than comparable land in the Mountain West states. Monthly living costs land between $1,900 and $2,700, depending on location and lifestyle. Wyoming's trust and privacy laws are also worth mentioning. The state has become something of a preferred jurisdiction for asset protection structures among those who take legal privacy seriously. That said, Wyoming is not for everyone. Winters are severe, particularly at elevation, and the geographic isolation is real in ways that maps do not fully communicate. Services outside the three main population centers, Cheyenne, Casper, and Jackson, are thin. Housing inventory, particularly at the entry level, is persistently tight. Number 10, Arkansas, USA. Arkansas tends to get passed over in conversations about affordable American living, which is part of why it belongs on this list. Tucked between the Ozark and Ouachita mountain ranges in the south-central United States, it offers a genuinely varied landscape of forested ridges, river valleys, and reservoir lakes that would attract considerably more attention if they were located further east or west. The numbers are straightforwardly compelling. Entry-level property sits between $180,000 and $260,000. Agricultural land, which has attracted serious institutional interest in the Delta Corridor, trades at $3,200 to $4,500 per acre. Monthly all-in costs run $1,700 to $2,400, making it one of the more affordable states for retirees. The top income tax rate has been cut to 4.4% and is scheduled to fall further. Social Security income is fully exempt from state tax, and property tax rates are among the lowest in the nation. The northwest corner of the state, anchored by Bentonville and Fayetteville, has grown noticeably in the past decade. The presence of Walmart's global headquarters and a serious arts infrastructure funded by the Walton family has changed the character of that region considerably. The honest caveats: summers are humid and hot in ways that surprise people who have not experienced the south-central climate. The state sits within Tornado Alley, and severe weather events are a real seasonal consideration. Rural infrastructure in the Delta region, the flat eastern portion of the state, remains thin. Number 9. Kentucky, USA. Kentucky sits in a genuinely central position in the eastern United States, close enough to major cities on both coasts to be accessible, but priced as if it exists in a parallel economy. The bluegrass region in the north-central part of the state is one of the most visually distinctive agricultural landscapes in America, with rolling limestone-rich pastures and horse farms that have made Lexington internationally recognizable. The eastern Appalachian counties offer a different kind of scenery altogether, more rugged and considerably more remote. Property entry points sit between $190,000 and $280,000, and farmland, particularly in the Bluegrass Corridor, trades at $4,200 to $5,800 per acre, reflecting the premium that horse country commands. Monthly costs run $1,700 to $2,500 all in. Kentucky levies a flat 4% income tax, with a scheduled reduction already in motion, and the first $31,000 of annual retirement income is exempt from state tax entirely. Property tax rates are modest by national standards. The bourbon industry has become an unexpected economic driver, bringing agritourism, restaurant culture, and infrastructure investment to parts of the state that were stagnant a decade ago. College towns like Lexington and Bowling Green offer reasonable amenity levels at well below national average costs. On the downside, rural decline in the eastern counties is pronounced. Broadband access outside population centers is uneven in ways that matter for remote workers. The humid continental summer is not particularly comfortable, and Kentucky is further from the Atlantic coast than its central location might suggest. Number 8. Kotor, Montenegro. Montenegro is a small country on the Adriatic coast of the Western Balkans, and its geography is one of the more dramatic in Europe. The Bay of Kotor, often described as Southern Europe's only true fjord, is surrounded by medieval walled towns, Venetian-era fortifications, and limestone mountains that drop sharply into the water. Budva, a short drive south, is more resort-oriented but offers a longer beach season and a somewhat livelier year-round population. The cost of living is manageable at around $1,100 to $1,300 per month all in, with a one-bedroom apartment in the city center ranging from $500 to $900 depending on the town and the season. Entry-level property sits between $120,000 and $250,000. Montenegro uses the euro as its de facto currency despite not being an EU member, which simplifies financial planning considerably. The residency pathway here is through temporary residence via property ownership or company formation, issued initially for 1 year and renewable thereafter. The bigger structural argument for Montenegro is its EU candidacy status. Accession is broadly expected around 2028, though Balkan EU timelines have historically slipped, and that context matters before you build a long-term plan around it. The honest drawbacks are significant enough to mention clearly. Healthcare infrastructure remains limited by Western European standards, and anyone with serious medical needs should factor that in carefully. Summer brings a tourism crush to the coastal towns that pushes prices up sharply and fundamentally changes the character of places like Kotor and Budva for several months each year. Number 7. Panama City, Panama. Panama City is the financial capital of Central America, a city of glass towers and container ships at the Pacific end of the canal, with a functioning first-world hospital sector and an infrastructure level that surprises most first-time visitors. The climate is tropical and consistent year-round, with a wet season from May to November that cools temperatures somewhat but does not interrupt daily life in any serious way. Monthly costs run between $1,500 and $2,300, and a one-bedroom in the city center averages around $1,200 per month to rent. Entry-level property purchase sits between $150,000 and $350,000, with significant variation between the canal-adjacent high-rise developments and the outlying suburbs. Panama's Pension-a-Do program is one of the most recognized retirement visa structures in the world for good reason. The income requirement is $1,000 per month from a qualifying pension, and the benefit package attached to it is genuinely substantial: 25% off restaurants, 50% off hotels, 25% off airfare, and 20% off medical costs. Panama also uses the US dollar as its official currency and taxes only territorial income, meaning foreign-sourced income is generally not taxed at all. On the downside, the humidity in Panama City is constant and total. There is no cooler season to look forward to. City traffic is genuinely severe during peak hours, and the Pension-a-Do discounts that make the visa so attractive are not available until the visa is formally granted. As a tourist, you pay full price. Number 6. Split, Croatia. Split is Croatia's second city, positioned on a peninsula on the central Dalmatian coast, with the ruins of Emperor Diocletian's palace forming the literal core of the old town. The Adriatic here is clear and accessible. The islands of Brač, Hvar, and Vis are a short ferry ride away, and the city operates at a pace that feels genuinely Mediterranean without the overcrowding that has come to define Dubrovnik. Croatia joined the EU and the Schengen zone and adopted the euro in 2023, completing a transition that has significantly changed the calculus for expats considering the country. English is widely spoken among younger residents. Crime rates are low. Monthly all-in costs run $1,200 to $1,700, with a one-bedroom in the city center at $700 to $1,100. Entry-level property sits between $180,000 and $320,000. Croatia offers a digital nomad visa requiring proof of at least €2,500 per month in foreign income. It is renewable for up to 12 months and allows legal residents without the need for a work permit from a Croatian employer. There is a critical caveat, however, and it is worth stating plainly. The digital nomad visa does not count toward permanent residency or citizenship. Time spent on it does not accumulate toward naturalization. For non-EU buyers, property purchase also requires a reciprocity check, meaning your home country must have a reciprocal agreement with Croatia. And summer on the Dalmatian coast effectively doubles the cost of accommodation in tourist-heavy areas. Number 5. Kuala Lumpur and Penang, Malaysia. Malaysia sits near the top of nearly every serious expat cost-benefit analysis for Southeast Asia, and for reasons that hold up under scrutiny. Kuala Lumpur is a genuinely modern city with fast internet, functional public transport, world-class private hospitals, and a food culture that draws visitors from across the region. Penang, the island state to the northwest, offers a more relaxed pace with a UNESCO-listed Georgetown and a legendary street food scene that has no serious rival in the region. Monthly costs are remarkably low at $900 to $1,500 all in. A one-bedroom in the city center runs $500 to $900. Entry-level property sits between $120,000 and $280,000, and Malaysia is one of the few countries in Asia where foreign nationals can hold freehold property title outright, which is a significant structural advantage. English is widely spoken at every level of society, from business to daily commerce. Infrastructure is modern and reliable by regional standards. The residency pathway here is the Malaysia My Second Home program, known as MM2H. Be aware that the requirements were dramatically tightened in 2023. The current thresholds include a fixed deposit of approximately $320,000 and proof of $40,000 per month in income. Any guide written before 2023 is now substantively wrong on these figures, and there is a considerable amount of outdated information still circulating online. Verify directly with the Malaysian Immigration Department before making any assumptions. Number 4. Valencia, Spain. Valencia is consistently rated among the top destinations for expats in Europe, and the ranking tends to hold across different methodologies and survey populations. It sits on the Mediterranean coast of eastern Spain, large enough to support genuine city infrastructure but compact enough that daily life does not require a car. The climate is among the most temperate in Europe, with over 300 days of sunshine annually and winters that rarely push below 10 degrees Celsius. Monthly costs run $1,500 to $2,200, with rent for a one-bedroom in the city center at $900 to $1,400. Entry-level property sits between $150,000 and $280,000. The city offers excellent public and private healthcare, a functioning metro system, and a density of international residents that has produced a well-established expat ecosystem across the outer barrios. Spain's non-lucrative visa requires proof of passive income of approximately €2,400 per month and does not permit the holder to work in Spain. For remote workers with foreign employment contracts, the digital nomad visa is the more appropriate vehicle. Both lead to renewable residence. One important development, Spain's Golden Visa, which previously allowed residency through property investment, was formally closed in 2025. That route no longer exists. Additionally, Spanish is genuinely necessary outside expat circles in Valencia. The city is welcoming, but functional integration requires at least conversational Spanish. Number 3. Paphos, Cyprus. Cyprus is a full EU member state at the eastern end of the Mediterranean, and Paphos, on the southwestern coast, is the city that most international buyers target first. It sits at a lower elevation than the capital Nicosia, directly on the water, with a compact old town, an archaeological park containing Roman mosaics, and a marina district that has attracted a noticeably international property market over the past decade. The island has warm winters by European standards, with summer heat that is intense but manageable near the coast where sea breezes provide some relief. English is widely spoken, a legacy of British colonial administration that left an infrastructure of English-language schools, legal systems modelled on English common law, and a professional class fully comfortable operating in English. Monthly costs sit at $1,400 to $2,100, with a one-bedroom in central Paphos at $700 to $1,100. Entry-level property sits between $180,000 and $320,000. The residency pathway is Cyprus's permanent residence by investment program. It requires a property purchase of at least €300,000 and proof of passive income of at least €50,000 per year from outside Cyprus. In return, holders receive EU permanent residence, a non-domicile tax regime that is favorable for foreign retirees receiving income from abroad, and access to the full EU single market. The political reality of Cyprus deserves honest mention. The island remains divided. The northern third operates as a separate entity recognized only by Turkey. This has no direct bearing on daily life in Paphos for most residents, but it is a geopolitical fact that shapes the island's long-term trajectory. And the summer heat, reaching 38 degrees Celsius and above in July and August, is not a minor inconvenience. It is a genuine lifestyle constraint for those who are not heat-adapted. Number 2. St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis is a two-island federation in the northern Lesser Antilles of the Caribbean, with a combined population of roughly 55,000 and a political stability that has made it one of the more reliable small-nation investments in the region for decades. The landscape is volcanic, green, and genuinely scenic. The pace of life is slow in a way that is either restorative or frustrating, depending entirely on the individual. The Citizenship by Investment program here is the oldest in the world. It was established in 1984 and has processed tens of thousands of applications in the 4 decades since. The options are a $250,000 non-refundable contribution to the Sustainable Growth Fund or a $400,000 real estate investment in an approved development. Either route leads directly to full citizenship and a passport with visa-free access to more than 150 countries, including the full Schengen zone and the United Kingdom. There is no income tax on St. Kitts and Nevis. The political climate is stable by regional standards. And the passport strength is genuinely significant for those whose current citizenship restricts travel. It is important to be clear about what this entry is not, however. St. Kitts is not a cost-of-living destination in the way that most other entries on this list are. Monthly costs run $2,000 to $3,200, and a one-bedroom apartment in the center ranges from $1,200 to $2,000. The real estate required for citizenship starts at $400,000. The island offers limited services relative to the price point. This is a citizenship acquisition vehicle, not a retirement lifestyle play, and those are meaningfully different things. Number 1. Malta. Malta is a small archipelago in the central Mediterranean, 27 kilometers long at its widest point, located 93 kilometers south of Sicily and 288 kilometers north of the Libyan coast. It has been a crossroads of civilizations for over 7,000 years, and the evidence of that history is embedded in the landscape at every scale, from the megalithic temples at Hagar Kim, which predate Stonehenge by 1,000 years, to the Baroque streetscapes of Valletta, the EU's smallest national capital. The climate is warm, dry, and Mediterranean in the most literal sense. Malta is a full EU and Schengen member state. English is one of the 2 official languages, used in government, courts, schools, and business. For retirees from the UK, US, Canada, and Australia, the language barrier that shapes so many other relocation decisions simply does not exist here. Monthly costs sit at $1,800 to $2,700, and a one-bedroom in the Sliema and St. Julian's area, which is the main expat concentration, runs $1,100 to $1,700. Entry-level property sits between $220,000 and $400,000, with noticeably higher prices in the premium seafront zones. The residency pathway is the Malta Permanent Residence Program, known as the MPRP. It requires a government contribution of at least €150,000 plus a qualifying property purchase or rental commitment. In return, holders receive permanent EU residence that does not require physical presence to maintain, access to the Schengen zone, and a favorable tax treatment on foreign income remitted to Malta rather than taxed at source. For retirees, the remittance-based tax model matters. Foreign pension and investment income brought into Malta is taxed at a flat 15%, with a minimum annual tax payment of €15,000. Income not remitted to Malta is generally not taxed in Malta at all. That is a meaningful structure for those drawing down international assets. Malta's position as the top pick on this list comes down to one compound advantage that none of the other destinations can fully replicate: full EU membership, English as an official language, a permanent residence program with a defined property component, favorable retiree tax treatment, Schengen access, and a passport that is among the most powerful travel documents issued by any small nation. The entry cost is real and should not be understated. But the value delivered per euro spent, in terms of legal rights, geographic access, and daily quality of life, is difficult to match. The honest downside is equally real. Malta is a 27-kilometer island that has absorbed a very large amount of development in a very short time. Traffic in Sliema and St. Julian's is genuinely difficult during peak hours. Overdevelopment is visible and ongoing. If open space, silence, and low population density are priorities, Malta will disappoint. But for those who want European legal standing, English language integration, and Mediterranean climate in a single package, the island remains the most direct route available. And there you have it, 12 countries where property purchase leads to residency or citizenship, ranging from affordable Caucasian republics and underpriced American states to Caribbean passport programs and EU permanent residence routes, all covered for 2026. The landscape shifts regularly, so verify every figure and every program requirement directly before committing to anything. If you found this useful, consider subscribing. We cover destinations like this every week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.